Hello, dear partners. I think they are all there. They are members of the Commission, their audience and speakers. I'm very pleased to host this milestone event of the Connecting Cities project here at iMAL. Indeed, we are very happy to have all of you here to think about what we've done, what we learn, and where we could go up in the future. For all the partners and all the artists, Connecting Cities was a tremendous opportunity to produce and test in real urban context some very innovative art projects engaging the citizen with their environment using the latest digital technology, mobile networks, augmented reality, Internet of Things, media facade, and so on. The teams we developed along the years are Network, Visible, and Participatory City. They triggered many ideas from many artists through the different calls for project, and we tried to produce the one that we thought could really be meaningful for the people, engaging them in scenario with their city and in connection with other cities. So this was a collaborative curatorial process between the different partners. And indeed, we really selected a project where we could be testbed for the technology, but not using the technology for themselves, but for relevant social interaction and sharing between people. For iMAL, so you know we are located in Molenbeek, the worst neighborhood of the world, the basis for all the Islamic terrorists. You've seen many while coming. You have to be careful. For iMAL, it is particularly important to create a context for maintaining the dialogues and opening the future for all communities. In 2013, indeed, we organized our Connecting City event on the metro place, and it was really very successful with all the local people coming and engaging with the different artwork, from kids to Moroccan grandmothers. So, and today, the performance of Jérémy Bellet, a project that we already shown in 2013, but in the center of Brussels, will be another symbolic act for these dialogues, because Jérémy, who is in Toronto, will walk through the street of Molenbeek, encountering the inhabitants to take news and engage the conversation. I think Jérémy will be with us in this room at some point in the afternoon. Indeed, the role of iMAL as a catalyst for social inclusion and empowerment of everybody through art, culture, and technology is going to increase in the next years. Again, thanks to European Development Regional Funding, we will completely change the venue here. We will double the surface, take the ground floor where you've seen the drinks shop, so with public space directly on the street level along the canal. We have a fab lab, which is over there in the other building, very small. We will build a new fab lab, probably 3 times bigger with new equipment. And this is really, for us, a tool for everybody, a center for arts, science, culture, technology, innovation, and inclusion. Well, let's come back to Connecting City. The EU Culture Program is probably one of the best working environment that Europe can offer. Without it, we couldn't have done such a project, such an innovative exploration in real urban situation. Without it, we couldn't have developed the strong network of so many cultural organizations sharing ideas, creating and co-producing collaboratively, having artists doing incredible works to be shown through all Europe and its variety of audiences. Connecting Cities started from a network of 11 partners in 2012, and now it's a vibrant community of 36 cultural organizations extending well beyond Europe and almost on all continents. I think we don't have yet an African partner, but I'm sure it will come. The symposium is for us an an opportunity to share our experience with all of you and think about the future of media arts for the development of the city. And for the rest of this afternoon, Jasmine Grimm will be our moderator. Jasmine is working at Public Art Lab Berlin. Public Art Lab Berlin was the initiator of the Connecting City project and is the lead partner. So Jasmine, it's up to you.
Thank you very much, Yves Bernard, Director of iMAL in Brussels. I'm very happy that you all came, and thank you, Yves, again for hosting this event, which is the evaluation event of Connecting Cities after 4 years. And so we're standing here with this experience, with a strong collaborative network, and we want to give you an evaluation, and also I will shortly guide you through today's conference program, that you get an overview what to expect. So this is the program. After a short welcoming word from Yves Bernard, we will have Mrs. Barbara GESSLER, who is Head of Unit Culture at the Education, Audiovisual and Culture Executive Agency at the European Union. We're very happy that she's with us today. Afterwards, SUSA Pop, who is the initiator of the Connecting Cities Network and the Director of Public Art Lab, she will give an overview of the Connecting Cities Network and a short introduction. Before we come to Dr. Norbert Streitz, and we are very honored and very pleased that he is with us the first time at the Connecting Cities activities, and he will give the keynote lecture today. He's the founder of the Smart Future Initiative, and we're very happy and very pleased that you're with us. Afterwards, there will be a short break before we dive into the afternoon program, and the afternoon program holds a very dense program. We have 3 panels which are fleshed out from the 3 city visions that we were exploring in the last 4 years: the networked city, the participatory city, and the visible city. And we were discussing each city vision very much with the curators, and we evaluated them, and we found these new titles and new research fields in the end. And we made up these panels to discuss what happened, but also to see what can happen in the future, and also to include you, the audience, in discussions. And all of this will also become part of the publication that we're currently producing. So we're looking forward to the discussions. And in between, there will be a performance included by Jeremy Bailey, who's based in Toronto, and who will be with us, not personally, but with his avatar, which is a telepresent slave, who will give us a 10 minutes introduction. And we're very happy that he will be here with us. In the evening, he will come back and guide us through the streets of Molenbeek. And just before he will guide us, we will have some closing remarks with some Connecting Cities curators, saying what happened in the past, what is the present, and what is the future vision of Connecting Cities. So now I would like to welcome Mrs. Barbara GESSLER, and looking forward to the welcoming words. Thank you for being here. We have to say, the Connecting Cities network is mainly funded by the European Union, by the Culture Program, and without your support and the support of the European Union, all of this couldn't have happened, so thank you very much.
Thank you. If I can, I would speak into this microphone, possible?
Is it possible to...
Otherwise, I'll take this one.
Okay.
Ça va? Ouais, mais je peux prendre celui-là aussi. Très bien. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for waiting patiently for me to come all the way from across the canal to Molenbeek. You know that it's supposedly a challenge to come to Molenbeek for the citizens of Brussels, but not only. So it's a good opportunity for me to come here. It already, for me, is a very big symbol. The place where we are, Yves, you mentioned it, is very symbolic also for the purpose of this symposium, of what all of you stand for. 75% of Europeans live in urban areas, which means that there's an enormous potential of people that to exchange and connect and participate. Of course, we also fund projects in the other areas. We do also kind of, for example, via another project which is called In Situ and Landscape Arts. We also target the other populations in other areas, but 75% of all Europeans choose to live in these urban areas. So it's very clear that this potential and innovation, and also when it comes to the economy, is enormous. And by coming here in the heart of the city of Brussels, this is already, for me, giving a sign of what this project is all about. It's talking to these people, making these neighborhoods participate in what you are doing, and also have these neighborhoods exchanged amongst each other, because that's also what Creative Europe is all about. That's what a European network is all about. The cities that have created this network are currently and constantly and continue to be developing this aspect, and I think this is why I'm extremely happy to be here, because, of course, if the focus of Connecting Cities is tackle this environment, I was actually quite surprised to see that you were indeed mentioning, Yves, already the possibilities that this project holds. Artists and art normally doesn't want to be an instrument for something else. But in this particular case, I think you're very frank and open about artists being potentially also a vehicle for something else, for democratic participation, for a dialogue, for intercultural dialogue, for inclusion, for social issues, for educational issues. All these things are actually tackled via artistic projects, and I think this is something that makes this project actually quite special. So when we first selected, and we got together on several occasions, in particular also with SUSA, because she presented the project at our Creative Europe desk network meeting 2 years ago in Berlin. So we have met on several occasions. I was actually very pleased to see that the idea is constantly growing, and I think this is already a big sign also for the success. If more people and more cities want to participate, that's really a very good sign that something is actually working, and that you want together to bring it further. But the ideas that we had talked about on the margin of when we saw each other is, can something like Connecting Cities be also an instrument for creating more and another and a different and maybe a more inclusive European identity? That's the question. Creative Europe is a program that wants to support cultural cooperation, mostly. It's not there to create European identities. But I think, and I'm very curious to see and to find out today also in the symposia that I will be witnessing, and hopefully also in the art that we will be seeing and living together, that this actually can help connect people across the continent, cross-border, automatically, but it can also connect cities. And this is something that we don't often have. Very often, you know, we have a city exchange program and we have citizens' dialogues, but to connect those two by using the agora that you have, which are public spaces, which are big screens, the accessibility of which, in my mind, cannot be higher. Because want it or not, you'll be facing these screens. So make the best use of it. And this is what you had tried to say. Can we not use this for a good purpose, really? I want to stress, we are not ideological. But of course, if this can help inclusion, in particular now, when it comes to tackling rather critical situation when it comes to including our whole new immigrant population in Europe. This is really very, very valid, and I'm curious to see how it actually worked, because this is the end of a project. Well, it's a milestone, let's call it. It can go on, so let's not call it the end, it's the beginning of something else. So I'm really curious to find out what you have witnessed. I'm also very curious to see what the feedback is. How did it actually work, this participation? How did people respond? You said grandmothers and children were there. I'm really curious to find out how that actually worked. I'm also curious to find out how your cooperation with the cities actually worked, because of course, you know, cities are also potentially heavy administrations, not per definitionem, and I know what I'm talking about, the most flexible institutions, but how flexible can they be if they see the purpose or the good intention of something, and if they see the meaning and usefulness of something there? I'm really curious to find out what you have lived. I'm also very intrigued, and this is something that is an important feature, I think, for this project, that you have engaged in a dialogue beyond Europe. You're actually tackling issues, and obviously living in an urban area is not a European phenomenon, it's a global phenomenon. It is something that is just as important in Shanghai as it is in Toronto, as it is in London or Lisbon. So that's something I'm also very curious to see, how this international dialogue will also actually bring Europe further by learning from what is done outside the European context and outside the European space. Because of course we are rich enough, we are diverse enough, we have a big cultural diversity in Europe, but it goes even further. And I think there are very good examples of what we can learn from artists and organizations that don't live in Europe but somewhere else, that maybe have gone and maybe come back with their experiences. And I think in this networks you have actually created a space where something like this is happening. So thank you for using these screens for something else than commercial interests. I think that's something that needs to be said. It's very easy. You have a wall, you sell it, there's advertisement. I'm not against commercial interests. Of course, everything that's being produced should be normally also sellable, i.e. advertised. But use these completely border-free public spaces for something else, that's really something that is new. And I would like to congratulate you already on being one of those projects where we really see that you have incorporated the objectives, in particular already of Creative Europe, which is facing and tackling the digital shift. You are really already using these technologies about which we talk so much, but you use it in a way that's more like, that's more than just, you know, having a Facebook page, which is what unfortunately many people still see as considering, you know, the digital shift is, I also have, I'm also on Instagram. Okay, but that's, you go beyond that and you use it to an extent which I find really, really very impressive. And I can say that, you know, we will be looking to such kind of projects also when it comes to developing Creative Europe further. You're using traditional ways of working together, cooperation, but you're actively actually using new instruments, new technology to make this happen. So this is really something outstanding. You mentioned augmented reality and features like this that Connecting City is using. I think there will be more of that. People are very interested, people are into it. It's also something that I think young people are very much into. So if we talk about audience development, this is obviously also something that speaks to young people. And I'm curious to find out how the grandmothers found it, but I understand that we shouldn't maybe do this kind of split between old and young, because it may not be realistic anymore, and you will be able to tell us how it actually functioned in reality. So thank you for inviting me, for giving me also the opportunity to be here and to learn something myself. It's always a very occasion. And last but not least, I would like to stress that, of course, projects like this don't work if the people behind them are not very committed. And from what I could see, there are people in this project that are extremely committed to making it a success. And I would like to thank you for also delivering the message, the positive message about the importance of keeping on funding European cultural projects. I believe this is something that comes across in everything you say, SUSA, whenever I hear you or read your pages. I hope the artists will also benefit of this. I'm very curious to see how they do it, because of course the success incidentally also depends on their commitment and how they feel residences have actually brought them further, how they feel that working in another context has actually made them grow, because this is also something that we want to do in Creative Europe, help them professionalize and internationalize their careers. So thanks already. It's a bit difficult to say thank you before it actually is, before the milestone is actually over. So, but thanks for having me, bringing me to Molenbeek and discovering this lovely place. And I'm curious also to see how it will develop once it's double the size and even more beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gessler, for these inspiring and insightful words. Now I would like to ask SUSA Pop to come here. SUSA Pop, she's the initiator of the Connecting Cities Network and also founder of Public Art Lab, who's the coordinator of Connecting Cities. SUSA Pop mainly initiated projects at Public Art Lab like the Media Facades Festival Berlin in 2008, the Media Facades Festival Europe 2010, which for the first time connected screens and media facades across Europe, and in 2012 SUSA initiated the Connecting Cities Network, and she will give you now a short overview and introduction into Connecting Cities. And thank you for being with us, SUSA.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gessler, for these really inspiring words. I'm very happy that you are here. I'm also so happy that Sabine Bornemann is here, who helped us very often when we had problems, questions, and of course, thank you very much that mainly all of our partners are here. And yes, we already had an evaluation workshop in this beautiful place of Yves Bernard and iMAL, and now before we are going over to hear a keynote speech of Dr. Streitz, we are really curious about your thoughts on this topic and our panels. I would like to give you a very short overview, because sometimes, yes, the medium is still a little bit complicated, and how to produce these urban media art projects is a complex, how can I say, undertaking. So let me just shortly introduce you to what we have done, giving you an overview. Originally, we applied with European Urban Media Network for Connecting Cities, and we have been totally 11 partners, 10 partners, and yes, and so we developed this logo, Connecting Cities, and have been working with it for our further communication. And I have to say, it is a crowdsourcing logo, so there were around 85 international designers who developed this logo, and this is then what came out. And it was very helpful for all of us to, yes, promote this project. And yes, as we said, we started with 11 founding partners, including Public Art Lab, and then at the end, or in 2014, we have been already 21 partners and 36 partners in the moment. And it's interesting, who are these partners who want to join us, because to be honest, we had a very rich program and we did not have so much time to acquire new partners, but there were a lot of art institutions who had these urban media facades and wanted to show cultural content, or there were curators, artists, but also European capitals of cultures, UNESCO media design cities, who wanted to join the network, and we had a certain agreement. And yes, are regularly in exchange with each other. Of course, we also had some goals. What I'm including now in a little film, what I'm going to show you, and which, yes, gives you an impression of the whole network. So we had originally the idea to open these commercial urban screens for cultural content. And the main question was always, what is the cultural potential of these digital infrastructures, and how can we make sustainable art projects for shared encounters and for the inclusion of the citizens to co-create their cities, to yes, to really participate in kind of opinion building artist projects. And in total, I think we produced around 150 projects all together with our partners. I will give you the facts later. And we have different partners, as you see, for example, here iMAL, who have a do-it-yourself infrastructure. Those who are working already with an existing infrastructure of screens or with projection walls, like our partner in Helsinki. And of course, yes, we had to deal with a very complex interface format, I would say, because there are a lot of partners, technology, city marketing included. Here, Liverpool, some of the partners have their own permanent infrastructure, and Ars Electronica, which is a city icon, meanwhile, this media facade, a low-resolution media facade with a permanent display where the people can put their music on a display and listen or see, yes, the color playful lighting every night. Media Lab Prado, who is a public organization and running the screen, but also Montreal. We learn all from Montreal, which is a city planning model, who have 10 permanent projection walls all over the city, which where they show cultural content, invite the festivals to use these infrastructure. So it's really, how can I say, as diverse as these infrastructures are, also our partners are, because we are from creative labs, public institutions, but also cultural enterprises. And we learned a lot from each other when we have been co-curating these whole projects and producing the projects. What are the different production conditions what we have, and yeah, and how can we deal with this? So I would just yes, soon stop here with the film and introduce you to what is really important if we do something like this, because the artist projects, they have been shown in a different urban context. They were circulating to these different digital urban media environments, and we can say everything starts from an urban context, and it has a very huge impact on the content, and of course from the content to the audience development, because through these new interaction technologies, we use them to include the audience, and so the question was, how can we work with these different public spaces? So some of our partners, for example, their audience, this is have been mass events, and others, for example, yes, they went to the neighborhoods and were more research projects. And this is interesting to exchange on this level our experience, and I think this is only possible through a funding of the European Union, because we have not yet developed a business model out of this. But sharing these different structures is still a wonderful community and opportunity. And if we have here, for example, a look, it is, you see this whole medium today of urban media screens and environments. So when we work with this medium, we have to take into consideration the technologies, the city marketing, but also, of course, the content, the artist ideas, and we developed certain criteria what we often used when we have been curating the projects. It was always important, and one criteria, of course, the idea and the innovation of an artist project, but also the social relevance. Do we really need it for the society? Is there an emergency to show it? And out of this, of course, how can we include the public audience and, yes, and make them part of the creative processes, give them platforms for opinion building? Then the technological feasibility, and of course to implement it within the financial framework. Now I'm going to show you the methodology and the activities, what we have been doing every year. So we had 3 topics what have been already mentioned and which I shortly will present afterwards. But it all started that we have been writing a curatorial briefing and statement to our city visions, and then had an open call, an international open call where artists could apply, combined with, yes, I would say local recommendations. So we invited on one hand artists to apply for this call, and we had an open call because we wanted to include as many people as possible and artists, and really wanted to promote this new form of creating art projects for the public space. And then the second part was that I think what was important for the implementation of the Connecting Cities projects was that we co-curated and co-produced these projects, which means we had a short list and we met regularly, and only if a project was selected by 2 partners, we have finally selected it. So this was a certain guarantee that these projects circulated, that not everybody has its own local program and had no more budget to invite the others. So it was really a guarantee for mobility and circulation of the artists all around the network, and for us an extremely inspiring way of exchanging about the production conditions and in the different urban context and within the different infrastructures and conditions we produce the art projects. Then the Connecting Cities events. So some of them, they were not taking place at the same time. We always recommended them to implement them in a local framework to promote the festival or the Connecting Cities event further. But very often we, of course, tried to bring 3 or 4 cities together at the same time. And yes, especially in the first city vision network city, we also achieved to make even or created an intercultural dialogue beyond physical borders. But here you will hear more in my panel later. And of course, we also had workshops, labs, artist residency. As it is an interdisciplinary format, it was very important that we had this interdisciplinary exchange because, yes, so the technology world have completely different way of thinking, and as the artists, so it was important in these workshops that we learned from each other, especially from the value words and also, of course, the coding and the language. And together we could create, I would say, yes, new collaborative projects. And last but not least, of course, our conferences, international conference, European conference for reflection, promoting the Connecting Cities network, evaluation of the city visions. So now just a short overview to these topics. I think they functioned very well. Also yesterday we were again talking about them: networked city, participatory city, and invisible city, with certain motives. With a networked city, we wanted to exchange in a networked scenario from citizen to citizen beyond physical borders, and of course have been discussing about tele-distributed personalities and presence, and we will see one very good project today of Jeremy Bailey, and think about the dimension of networked city. So with translocal city, we thought it could be an interesting dimension to include even more the social aspects, and I think in times of migration it's so important, different value worlds. Then the participatory city, it was more including the, how can I say, the space around these urban media environments, including the neighborhoods, thinking about how can they be used as platforms for shared encounters, for opinion building. This was very often a more activist projects which came out at this time. And the invisible and visible city, to create an awareness about our digital cities, invisibly generated data technologies to make them visible through artistic scenarios. And yes, so here is the title of our upcoming Connecting Cities publication: What Urban Media Art Can Do, Why, When, Where, and How. And we are concentrating on one hand on the urban media art projects. How can they be developed? What are really interesting aspects and themes which we experienced in this whole, these 4 years? And clustered then within these chapters, and also want to show the whole conditions in which they are produced. So we have a second important chapter about urban media environments, where we want to focus on one hand of the curator statements. How did they do it with their, especially, how can I say, with their special urban context and infrastructure, and also having a look behind these infrastructure. What is the business model, the technology? How important is the context for the audience development? What kind of content are they showing and who pays for it? So far, this overview, and I think we will have a launch on the 16th of May at the EACEA in Hong Kong with the publication. Then we will also present it during the Media Architecture Biennial in Sydney. We are happy that Media Architecture Institute is part of our network, and they are a huge network in themselves with the Media Architecture Biennials, and in Berlin in September during the Maker Faire. So here are some facts and statements for the Connecting Cities Network. They are all, we all generated these facts through the information what we received from the artists, from the art projects, workshops, from our partners. So in total, there were around 300 artists included. We also counted the artists who participated workshops and in the prototyping labs. I think we produced by ourselves around 70 projects, and or here we have it 100 art projects. Then we had 30 local round tables, we had 40 workshops, 30 conferences, own conferences, but also conferences where we presented the project, and this is the overview. Then 1 million views on the internet. We have, of course, partners like Ars Electronica, who have by themselves 200,000 visitors. And of fact, they are also a huge, how can I say, cultural enterprise. And of course, the Media Facade, the website of the Media Architecture Institute, which is very well recruited and visited. Then we have subscribers, also including our partner network, but for our Connecting Cities newsletter, we reach meanwhile 2,000 experts worldwide, and it's growing. And then the likes from Facebook and Twitter, and the followers, And yes, last but not least, the overview. Okay, so thank you very much. And
Thank you, SUSA Pop.